Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to some more Wizard of Legend. Now, I'm gonna stop you right there. Do you think you're hot stuff? Yeah, you. Well, you're all hot in my eyes. I don't know where I'm going with this. We're just using fire spells today, so Now, restricting our arsenal of 6 possible elemental combinations to just what the Unga Bunga cavemen had discovered is not the smartest play. Not only are we using 1/6 of our all-available arcana, but also, most enemies have both a weakness and resistances to certain elements. That's how this game works. And because of how that works, we are more likely to get absolutely fucked by RNGesus than not. Unless you're into that. There is a silver lining though, in Neve's Ruby, which will be our starting relic. Basically, if we had a handful of fire and only fire arcana, we get some pretty juicy stat increases. Warrior Flush is also another relic that can help us out here, along with a few other ones. So hopefully we can find those during the run. Our cloak of choice is the Fury, for obvious reasons. And with all that out of the way, let's get down to business. Even though we are restricted to just using Fire Arcana, we still have a pretty sizable selection to choose from for our starting Arcana. In this video, I'll go through multiple runs with the following setups: Berserker, Crisscross, and of course, balls. So, let's fire things up. Yeah, I know. I'm very clever, thank you very much. First up is the Berserker run, and of fucking course, the one time I decide to do a full fire build, the game puts me up against the bosses that resist fire. So I could already tell that this was gonna be a great run. We're using some very high damage arcana this run, and while they do certainly pack a punch, we basically need to be in breath-smelling distance from our enemies in order to use them, which makes us susceptible to being punched ourselves. Our signature arcana, while cool and stylish, can be difficult to pull off at times. Most arcana will do damage whether or not you land a perfect hit on your enemies. A small handful, however, including Blazing Blitz, needs you to connect with a target. And if you don't, then yeah, well, too bad. That being said, the setup does allow for very flashy and satisfying combos. Since all of our arcana have some sort of movement baked into them, it allows for a very smooth hit-and-run style of play, which does feel pretty badass when you pull it off. While running through the trials, I've stumbled upon some bunny ears. Now, I am a ferocious, furious fire mage that burns everything in its path. Do you really think I would... A rather fitting cursed relic was offered to me as well, the Stanza of Flame, which would have made all of my fire arcana apply the burn effect. But at this point, I already have Neve's Ruby activated, so I'm not exactly sure whether this would be redundant, and I didn't take it, unfortunately. Ultimately, I did choke, but this could definitely work. The Berserker setup is fun, if you know what you're doing. Unlike the previous run, the Crisscross setup does give me pretty good reach, making the act of hitting and, more importantly, disrupting enemies a lot easier. Maybe not as high damaging as the Berserker, but certainly better for practicing social distancing. I'd also like to mention that Wizard of Legend, being a roguelike game, does depend a little bit on RNG. The Artisan, who is the main source of getting more arcana in your run, decided to give 2 shits about me running a fire build and not offer me any at all. Not only that, but the next time he decided to show up and did give me a fire spell, it was a dash, which can only be replaced by my already fire one. Needless to say, I think he's learned his lesson. Now this being the very next run, I wasn't expecting to run into the Stanza of Flame again so soon. And since the Artisan was being kind of a dick this time, I didn't really have Neve's Ruby activated quite yet, so I did take the Cursed Relic this time, which, to be fair, it is pretty safe considering I won't be fighting Freya anytime soon. I also noticed that the firewall, while not being the coolest or flashiest arcana, was surprisingly effective. Plopping it down meant that any melee enemies would just run straight through it, and it also has the ability to block projectiles. So, needless to say, I was pretty impressed by this rather unassuming spell, and I think it deserves more attention.
The Inferno Beam as our signature arcana was amazing as well. Its firing pattern meant that we could practically hit every enemy in the room, while its charged up version is just an absolute beast. Moreover, we managed to chance upon the Ancient Fountain Pen this run, which increases our signature arcana's damage by 1% each time its charged version is used, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it can scale a lot.
Unfortunately though, I did fail. Again. Comparatively though, it is a lot safer and quite easy to use, I'd say.
For my last run, of course Freya and Zeal had to show up again, cause, well, why the hell not? This time though, Wind Sovereign Shu decided to pop up as well, which is probably a poor decision on his part, but I'll take it. These particular arcana I chose do give me the luxury of range. However, that does mean that they can take a while to actually kill anything. A welcome change of pace for sure. Now, Neve's Ruby actually helped out a lot in this case because the damage boost given after the conditions are met made our somewhat weak spells hit pretty hard, on top of the already great reach they provide. In this particular run, I've managed to find a present. Now, this encounter isn't mentioned anywhere on the Wizard of Legend wiki, but from what I've experienced, the gift box is pretty rare and tends to give groups of relics that all help you in one aspect, whether that's increasing range damage specifically, summoning efficiency, or in this case, healing, which may or may not have single-handedly carried this run. Yeah, they kinda did. Relics like the Jewelry Box and Blades of Sympathy are absolutely broken, and without them I probably would have died several times. So here we encounter the Cardist, which basically takes one of our arcana and gives us 5 enhanced ones to choose 2 from. So...
let's go gambling! Aw, dang it!
Another arcana I've gotten is Field Berserk, which gives me the ability to cast Infinite Bolts. Oh yeah, and this happened.
Boom! Bam! Pow!
It was kind of annoying, but pretty amusing to say nonetheless. Now, in this run, we've actually managed to reach the final big bad, Master Sura, and I was locked in. After beating his ass, I was finally dubbed the wizard worthy of a legend. Hey, welcome to the end. Now, Wizard of Legend is a game that I feel doesn't get the attention it deserves. That's partially why it's my first ever video. Besides that, I am thinking of turning this into a mini-series of sorts. You know, like a video on each of the elements, so stay tuned for those. Again, thank you all so much for the continued support on my videos. I had always wanted to make my own vids since I was a wee little lad, and well, here they are. Anyway, thanks again so much for watching. A like and sub would be appreciated, and have a wonderful rest of your day.